What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast, and we're going to continue this inflation narrative because what's going to come is going to affect every single country in every world. And you can expect that there's going to be global protests, global riots, global famines, global everything. And it's going to cause an issue. Now, here is what is happening in Peru. Look at the scenes.
Sugar was 2.5 soles a week ago. Right now it's 6. Chicken was 12 soles 2 days ago. Now it's 16.
In an attempt to appease protesters, the government has scrapped a tax on fuel and announced a 10% increase in the monthly minimum wage. Inflation in Peru hit a 26-year high back in March, and the protests are now another test for the recently elected President Pedro Castillo, who's already survived 2 impeachment attempts after just 8 months in office.
And so, hyperinflation. 1 week, it's $2. The next week, it could be 6. And the next week, it could be 16. Folks, that would be an 8x increase in 2 weeks. Can you imagine if that happened to the bread you buy? You pay $4 for it. The next thing you know, it's $24 a loaf. You can't live like that. It's not possible. And that's when you see people start taking to the streets because they got to feed their families one way or another, right? And there's a lot that can happen. And, order out of chaos is the name of the game for these elites. You have to pay attention because this is not happening. This is not just localized in one country. Yeah, there's been instances, but this is worldwide, folks. And I believe, and I'm telling you this right now, and I've been harping on this. I've been hearing chatter about droughts hitting the Midwest and affecting our grain crops. You already have a grain shortage and a wheat shortage in the global supply chain. Now add into that a drought that affects our crops here in the Midwest. Now that's a recipe for further disruptions of the food chain and increases the global famine probabilities that are already pretty high. So folks, strap in and be prepared because it's gonna get ugly. And I've been talking about this for as long as I've been able to talk about this. You have to be prepared and spread the word because the signs are everywhere. Here, the French foreign minister warns of a global famine. And so this, like I said, it's not localized to one country, folks. It's everywhere. Russia, right? Ukraine, they're known as the breadbasket of the of Europe. And what happens when you take, their wheat out of the supply chain? What happens when the oil, all the raw materials that Russia supplies, are cut off? Severe consequences. Here it says, this is a good quote, the way to crush the bourgeois, or the middle class, is to grind them between the millstones of taxation and inflation. And inflation is the hidden tax. And folks, you're starting to see the beginnings of that. And like I said earlier, order out of chaos is the name of the game. Peru deployed the armed forces, like you saw in the video, to control violent protests against inflation that have intensified since last week, which have caused clashes with police, temporary food shortages in Lima, and disrupting agricultural exports. The government has dispatched 95 army patrols to different locations in the country, especially the critical ones. And this is what the reporters on Monday are saying outside the presidential palace. If you don't believe me, the proof is in the pudding. I have countless videos just showing you day in and day out that events transpiring right before your own eyes. And when you're in the middle and when you're in the midst of this thick fog, you can't really see the forest. You can't really see the whole picture, the macro view. You see the trees, or you see the forest for the trees. So, zoom out, look at everything that's happening, and realize that the end game has begun. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to the channel. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.